Hey, Alpha fam, welcome back to another episode of Alpha Commission. Today on Alpha Commission, of course, we're going to go over that failed falling wedge on the Bitcoin chart. Guys, we were chasing this pattern coming off of a bearish cup and handle. We did have that drop that did put a falling wedge, a bullish falling wedge on the Bitcoin chart. Of course, we did have the conditions for it, and we did get validated by the breakout, but we never got a confirmation of holding that Bollinger Band midline. And additionally, I did say that we had a Alpha 9 knockout coming up on the EMAs, which could take us back to our lows. And then I suggested that we didn't want to lose that 30,600, 30,000, 700 area. Otherwise, there was a good chance that we would go for a drop. And sure enough, that's what ended up happening. Of course, it would have been nice to get that mean reversion to the upside, but I think what may have been happening here is that this Darth Maul candle over here that has this wick coming all the way to here actually already grabbed that liquidity, and that this was a setup by market makers in order to push us down during low liquidity conditions during the holiday. And so this may have just been kind of a 4th of July, just kind of a knockout there. So anyway, guys, sorry about that. These wedge formations do have a 70% chance of breaking to the upside. It did break to the upside, and so it did succeed in that sense. But we just weren't able to get the continuation. The buyers just didn't step in and bring this chart to the upside, and it did allow the market makers to just liquidate everyone to the downside there. We are going to show you how you could have seen that on the old setup. So if I do throw the old 1 hour momentum pool on the charts, you can see even if we just ignore this pattern, then one thing that we would notice is that yes, we did get that momentum shift, right? As we had the new momentum pool start its day, we crossed the pool. This was that longing opportunity. Then we've met some resistance at the Bollinger Band midline. We came back into the pool. That would have been your shorting opportunity, and then you could have caught that entire move. So guys, you have to take the risk on these momentum pools. When you cross the momentum pool, when you cross into the momentum pool, it is a momentum shift, okay? That's why you take the risk. You took the risk to the upside, you took the risk to the downside, and you got paid in spades by it. This system is working. Now, the only thing that didn't work was, of course, that pattern. And how could we have validated that pattern using our pool here? Well, let's go ahead and just throw the pattern back on again. So what would have needed to happen here was for us to have conditions, validations on that breakout, holding the momentum pool so that we're above the pool and we're above the pivot, right? Proving that we have that strength, and then flipping that neutral point of control, and that would have suggested that we could have, skyrocketed all the way to the bullish control zone, fulfilling this pattern. Now, guys, that didn't happen, of course, but that's why we do have the key levels on the chart. And if you guys are paying attention to these key levels, then you don't need to think about the pattern. You can just see, aha, we broke back into the pool. That's my shorting opportunity. Aha, we're underneath the volatility pivot. We're underneath the pool. This is a second shorting opportunity. Aha, we're in the bearish control zone, and we continue to be embedded underneath the Bollinger Band's midline. I should continue that short. This system is working, guys, and the Alpha Fam is absolutely killing it. But I do have to apologize for that pattern not working out. Again, it's only a 70% hit rate for these type of patterns, 70% chance that it's going to fulfill its measured move, but that still means that there's a 30% chance it won't. And patterns are just fractals, and fractals are just kind of like coincidences on charts, right? We're all looking just for setups. It doesn't mean that it's a guaranteed thing. still we need actual human beings. We need you. We need a billion, buyers to step in and just push the price to the upside. And if they don't, right, if no one steps in to buy, then the chart is just going to do what it does. And if market makers want to grab some liquidity, they can also push it in the direction of their choice, especially on these low liquidity days, such as the 4th of July and other holidays where people are spending time with their families. They're not trading, and so that just allows market makers a much easier time of pushing the charts in the direction that they want to take it. Now, we did get a different setup. I don't want to leave you guys with nothing, so I am making another update just because that pattern did fail. And I just want to show you what we have going on the chart this morning. Of course, I'm not going to leave you empty-handed, Alpha Fam. And so we can see that when we did have the breakdown from that pattern that we had been looking at, that it did become invalidated. Usually you can tell that, by the way, guys, like when you have a falling wedge here, usually you can tell that, like if we break the tip of the wedge, okay, usually it's going to break down, guys, okay? Like that's just usually the case. What you're looking for is to hold that trend, right? You're looking to hold that trend and then keep going. If you break it, right? If you break it, then this trend line becomes meaningless and you've kind of already destroyed your wedge right there. So that's how you can think about it just from a patterns perspective. I hope that helps you in the future. But the other thing to look at is when we got that final dip before the breakout, did we break that low? If we broke that low, then it suggests the chart's probably going to go much further down. And so that's also going to be a shorting opportunity. Just want to leave you with these kind of tips because I know these kind of key levels are sometimes difficult for people to work with. But if you see a triangle pattern and you break the tip of the triangle, watch out. If you see a triangle pattern and you break the low on it, just watch out, okay? Yes, these have a 70% chance of breaking to the upside, but that 30% chance is going to give you a couple clues before we just drop to hell. And you did get those clues. And so I just want to empower you for the future and for your learning as traders how to discern that. Now let's go ahead and show you this the current setup. Guys, I posted this current setup in the discords, okay? I posted it in 3 different discords, AR, Ponzi, and then also Alpha. So I hope you guys had it available for you. But essentially, what it was is the pool here. And by the way, the link to the Discord is in the description of the video below. Go ahead and check that out. You get stuff before the video. YouTube takes time to process videos, and it just doesn't get out in a timely fashion. But look at this. We have our volatility pivot down here. We have our pool right here. So above the pivot, above the pool, that's going to be the play to take to the upside. You can now see that we're pushing out of the bearish control zone. That is going to give us a chance to kind of come back to this Bollinger Bands midline, capture this liquidity over here, maybe somewhere around 30,600. So this is the conditions, okay? And then this is the validation getting out of that bearish control zone. And then the confirmation is going to be if we can get embedded above the Bollinger Bands midline and take out that neutral point of control, then basically bears are going to be confirmed as defeated on this little drop that we've had, and bulls are going to regain the advantage on the chart. Now they don't fully gain advantage or control of the chart until $31,018, but above 30,681, they will have flipped the neutral point of control into their favor. So we're going to just see what goes on here. I do like these setups. We did actually have that same setup over here, and it did fail, so just be aware that these things can fail. But you see we're pushing already, okay? So again, these things happen fast. You have to be part of the Discord to get those early notices, and that would have been a great play here. Now, we can potentially come back to this area just like we did over here, right? Where we broke down, we pushed up, right? We broke down, we pushed up, and then we came back. The question is, do we hold and flip the Bollinger Bands, right? Do we hold and do we flip the momentum pool, and then do we flip the Bollinger Bands? That's what we're going to be looking for on this play. Now, what are reasons that this play could fail? Well, first of all, let's just stop looking at the 1 hour. Let's go ahead and look at an updated 6 hour. And the 6 hour is suggesting, wow, we have a huge momentum pool on the 6 hour, okay? So, you know, the previous 6 hour chart did fail. I just want to remind you that sometimes these systems do fail. Nothing is 100%. Now, we have a really good hit rate, but sometimes they do fail. So let's just go ahead and take a look at what happened on the previous one. On the previous one, I tell you the first candle can always be a fake out because it's just a continuation of the previous move. Okay, this was just another low being put in by this kind of a trend to the downside here. We didn't really have a strong confirmation of a shift of trend, and that can just suggest that there is the possibility for a fake out. When we broke below the bottom of that pool at 30,771, well, then we were below the pivot, we were below the pool on the 6 hour, and the 6 hour is stronger than the 1 hour, so you could have believed this one, and that's why we did get that push to the downside, guys. So again, like the system is working. You just have to remember the rules, okay? Yeah, if you got pushed up here, but then you had a momentum shift to the downside and underneath the pool, underneath the pivot, there's a good chance that there's a shorting play being set up there, okay? And yes, we would have preferred to cross this pool because that was what it looked like originally. But don't forget, charts sometimes have fake outs, and you have to be able to adapt with the chart, okay? It's not your fault. It's not my fault. It's not the universe's fault. It's just what happens in trading is that we're all kind of like trading against each other. And if too many people are seeing the potential for this upside, then that means that the money is to the downside. And so by basically wrecking all of these people who were going to the upside, the market makers can take all their money. Okay, it's just a zero sum game. It's just a little kind of a chess game that we're playing here with each other. And you and I are on the same side, but that doesn't mean that market makers, that doesn't mean that other participants aren't trying to just constantly wreck you and take your money. That's how these stock markets and these kind of exchanges work, guys. But anyway, you can see that was the signal to get out, okay? And then when we lost the neutral point of control, that was the confirmation. So the setup, okay, I just always like to kind of underscore these things. The setup conditions was a change in volatility. Okay, we were pushing up, and then we changed to the downside. Sorry, a change in momentum. And then the validation was breaking the underside of the pool while being underneath the pivot and underneath the pool. That was validation. And then confirmation was when we got underneath the Bollinger Bands and we broke beneath the neutral point of control. Bears were in charge. You could have expected to go for Mr. Toad's wild ride to the downside, and then they weren't able to break the bearish control zone or even get to it. And so we're seeing this kind of buy up right here. Now, is this a temporary stop before we continue to push to the downside, or is this thing just a fake out and we're going to flip back up? Well, that remains to be seen. So let's go ahead and update this 6 hour since we are in kind of a new territory. And the new 6 hour is suggesting that, yeah, we do need to just push back up to that neutral point of control, okay, at 30,616. And then should we be able to flip that area, then we can consider to maybe re-enter our old territory, at which case we're going to need to get above 30,933 just to have a chance. And we're also going to need to flip 31,040 in order to gain that volatility pivot and just to keep on going on the 6 hour. Now it seems like a tall order, so maybe sideways is still the name of the game on this chart, and it could take some time for that volatility pivot to come down, come down, come down to make it easier within our reach, which is often what happens when you have the volatility pivot over your head. Sometimes market makers just drive the price down and then wait for the volatility pivot to drop with us slowly over multiple 6-hour candles. And then when the volatility pivot is within easy reach, then they flip it, then they get into those momentum pools, and then they go for it. Okay, guys. So just remember, a little bit of patience is sometimes necessary. As for this type of bounce that we're having right here, you can see that the bearish control zone did move up. That is what we're bouncing off of. And so if we do lose 30,162, we are probably going to go much deeper. And your heads up on that is going to be if we lose 30,407. That's going to be your cue that, oh, maybe this was kind of a fake out move. In the meantime, we are grabbing liquidity here at the neutral point of control, somewhere around that 30,600 that I mentioned. And of course, we do want to flip that somewhere around 30,620 and get embedded above the Bollinger Bands. Guys, I think that's enough analysis for the 6-hour. You understand what's going on there. And as for the daily doesn't really change. That's the same thing as what I showed you yesterday. And so let's just drop down to the day. And you can see that we did have that really skinny momentum pool. Now, the reason why I hate these skinny momentum pools is that it's very easy to break. And as you saw, that we just weren't able to support our candle on that momentum pool, just really too skinny. And so we very easily, just the slightest thing just could put us under the pool, which then put us, we were already under the volatility pivot, and then the slightest move to the downside just pushed us under the pool, and that suggested that we would have to check back to our next key level, which is the bullish control zone. So basically, what happened is that we were just on shaky ground here, very thin ice, and that ice broke, and everyone was like, "Okay, well, it's breaking. Are we good, bull fam? Are we good, bulls?" And they said, "Okay, yeah, we're all right for now. We're getting a little bit of a bounce, but we really have to close the day above 30,771 to make that convincing. Otherwise, this could have continuation or just a sideways action." And you know, one thing that we can consider when looking how likely that is whether or not we do end up fulfilling this bearish drive of divergence here. So we do have one drive of bearish divergence being formed here, and that you can see that we already did break our EMA to the downside this morning, and we are challenging that bullish control zone. So if we do break under that bullish control zone, we can easily come all the way down to the midline. Now, there's two kind of setups here. One is that we hold that bullish control zone, and this is just like kind of a you know short time frame reset, and then we go for another bullish control zone, just a push to the upside. This is the one that I'm favoring. Okay, that's why I was telling you last night that I was looking for more upside. I still kind of am, okay? We just kind of drove down and I'm looking for more upside. But please be aware that coming off of this bearish, divergence, sometimes we do get knocked out of the bullish control zone and then we have to fight for our life over at the middle of the chart. So just please be aware that if we do lose that bullish control zone, it could be a much more difficult time than you were expecting. So that's why I have these key levels on the chart for you. And again, I just want to reiterate where that is. That's 30,326. Should we get embedded below there, right? We got price action above it, and then suddenly we've got all this price action below it. Just to be careful, okay? Be careful. We're going to want to reflip that. Otherwise, this thing is going to go for a crazy ride, potentially to the downside, okay, in a quite heavy way. And just want to make you aware of that. And one reason to be aware of that is also that on the Joule, we did print another negative, segment here. Now, often we do see the bullish segments followed by indecision, followed by negative. So bullish, neutral, negative, right? And then same thing the other way around, negative, neutral, and then bullish. But in this case, we're printing another negative. So just be careful, okay? Like sometimes, sometimes we just get a little bit of a double whammy. And the jewel is giving us a heads up that, something's not perfect. Now we could reverse this by the end of the day, and that's what I would be hoping for, that we do get above 30,771 and that we come back up to challenge the volatility pivot. But otherwise, again, I would just suggest, best case is chop, waiting for these volatility pivots to come down and then flipping them after, multiple 6-hour candles, multiple days maybe. But the worst case would be to lose the bullish control zone, at which point we could get embedded underneath the Bollinger Bands on the daily, and that would put us at a big threat of losing the neutral point of control, which is something that we wouldn't want to do, as it could take us all the way down to our bearish control zone at 27,000. Or, we could bounce somewhere above there, like 28. So again, guys, I warned you about this potential setup here, and the key levels are keeping us safe. As long as you mind them, as long as you respect the key levels, then you shouldn't be in any harm, okay? You saw that we broke below there and you just got out, okay? Yeah, we tried to get that mean reversion to the upside. It didn't happen, okay? We just got out when we lost the pool, that's all. And now we're on the other side of the trade, okay? And should we flip above the pool, then suddenly we are going to have to change our opinion to be bullish again. And on the short term, on this 1 hour, you can see that we are pushing up, just like what the setup would suggest. But that doesn't mean that it has to work out. And so if we aren't able to flip the neutral point of control on the 1 hour, then again, it just would be an early indication that, we're either going to come back to test our lows, or should we lose those lows, that maybe the 6 hour and the daily are going to have a little bit more trouble than we would have liked. Okay, guys. Guys, I think I'm going to stop it there. That's your alpha for the day. Stay safe and happy trading.